The book is about human centricity. And you're bringing in the Superloop, which obviously is a lot of internal work, but also how it connects to our relationships. And you're talking about organizations that embrace this will be transformative, but not every organization is ready to just flick the switch and take this on. What is the groundwork? What is the foundational culture that organizations need to even have before they can embrace this understanding?
That is a huge point right there, Russell, which is as many organizations as I do this work in every year, I probably walk away from as many on the other side because they want to do it. They think that they're ready. And part of what we do as our opening work is called an equity audit. And not equity in a diversity, equity, inclusion type of way, but equity as far as what is happening inside of the system right now and how do the participants in the system see it as equitable or not equitable? What do they have access to that they think that they do or they don't? And so we do, depending on the size of the organization, we'll do 5 to 10 in-person interviews, and then we do a survey to the entire organization. We aggregate that information and we bring it back to the executives that are making the decision about this work. Depending on how they receive that information, Russell, tells us if they are ready to do the work or not do the work. And so there's some, and I'll just give you like 2 examples. One team that we recently met with that actually is known, their mission, they're a nonprofit, their entire model embodies that they want to do this work. Right. We did this equity audit. We sat on the executive team 3 times for about an hour to an hour and a half each time. The entire executive team, all they did was argue the entire time themselves. They not respectful, not allowing people to speak, just negative. And I'm like, okay. So after the 3rd time, we just have a conversation and say, you're all not ready to do this. If you want to do some independent coaching with your team, and then we'll do some on the field coaching, that'll be what you need to do before we get into this work. Because the biggest thing that sabotages this kind of work, Russell, and I'm not telling you anything that you don't already know, is that people see it as disingenuous. They're like, yeah, they want us to do this work, but they're not willing to practice it. And look at the way they treat each other. They feel like that there is duplicity there. And they're just like, that's not fair. And so we require the executive team to be doing the work at the table with us. If they're not committed to it, we don't work with them. And so that's the beginning of where we create the assessment and where they can start making gains and creating the environment that this investment, because it is an investment of time and money, is going to lead to cultural change, because that's what we're hired for, right? We are there to help cultures transform into the organization that leaders want. And so we're not going to go in and do it if we know it's not going to stick. And it's only going to stick if they're on board and willing to do the work themselves.
And they're demonstrating the culture of the organization. One of my biggest pet peeves is you'll go to an executive and they're like, whose responsibility is it for a healthy culture? And they're like, everybody's. I'm like, no. Yes, I get that everybody's part of the culture and how they show up is contributing to it. But at the top, you're modeling and, not only responsible, you're accountable for it. So to hear you tell a story of basically they're just fighting, I'm like, well, you're just in real time demonstrating how badly you need this shift.
Yeah,
you're just not ready for it.
And they could be, right? So I have had that organization that I just gave you the example. They just came back to the table 3 years later. Right. And so we all wake up at different times, right, to our own reality. And it does take some time. But, some of the leadership shifted. Some people left. New people came in and they come back and they're like, hey, you think you could come back and consider working with us again? And I love people, Russell, right? Like I truly believe that humans are the most amazing creatures on the planet. And we keep ourselves small and we do not live into the own power and majesty that we have. And so that is what I am in service to. I'm in service to your greatness in the world. And so if you're ready to do it, we're the ones to do it with, right? If you're not, we're not. Go hire some other group because they may want to be working with people that are just not 100% committed. So you're absolutely right. It starts at the top, right? And leaders have to be practicing this stuff or not be misleading their team members and thinking that they really want to make change.
As we're wrapping this up, I'm kind of curious then, what is a Superloop aligned organization look like? Where are you going in and going, oh, you get it. Yep, we're flicking the switch on this. We're going to hit the ground running.
Yep. Yep. So what I will tell you is that our kind of this test around this and
Mhm.
our baseline is they probably are doing it at like 65% of the time, right?
Right.
We don't really walk into too many. And this is everything from V corporations to conscious capitalist corporations to all of the organizations that are mission driven and all that kind of stuff. This stuff is hard. And unless you have a framework, which is really what the precipice of doing Superloop was that there was a lot of theories out there. That's a lot of theories. And what I knew as a leader that I needed all these frameworks and actual practices that I could operationalize on an hourly, daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, annualized basis. It needed to be that serious, just
Mhm.
like finance and marketing and advertising is, right? We didn't have that. And that's really what Superloop is. I am giving people, these are the practices to start with. Right now, our second book is going to be about a field guide. And so we are going to reveal all of the praxis in our Superloop courses and our practices. And so people that are at 65%, they have already used a couple of consultants, right, over the past couple of years. They wanted to do something and they thought it was going to work and it didn't really work. And they invested most of the time hundreds of thousands of dollars into consultants that they are investing in, and yet nothing really has changed, right? So they've already kind of done a little bit of that. There's a commitment about they understand it. The CEO and everybody else in the C-suite knows they need to sit at the table. I know they're ready, right? They are willing to let me talk to entry-level, mid-level managers by themselves. Okay, because that is also another one. Yeah, we're not so sure about that. Okay, that tells me a lot
Yeah.
when they're not willing to do that. They are willing to sit in on some of our trainings to see if they're the right fit. I like people that want to do that. I'm not threatened by it. I want them to understand what they're getting into. They're willing to devote at least 4 hours a month minimum, okay? 4 to 6 is what we usually tell people, to training up their employees, right? That is really important. It's not a lot of time, but it's got to be in the calendar. They need to know that they're going to get paid during that time and that there is going to be what we call integration work. After they leave the course, there's going to be things that they need to do that whoever they report to, we want them to know. They're all willing to integrate these systems into their day-to-day operations. If they're not, I tell them, don't waste your money.
No.
So those are kind of the key indicators.
So I'm an individual leader listening to this and going, I get it. I understand it. I want to do the work. I'm eager, but I only have control of me. I have control of my team. Besides obviously picking up the book, what would you recommend they do tomorrow? Just one little something to at least dip their toe into understanding the impact of understanding Superloop. What would you
Yeah.
recommend?
We have a practice that we call curious questions, Russell. And what I tell people all the time is, you asked me about how do I really interject my own Superloop, right? How do I interfere with this chronic thinking in my head? Asking curious questions is some of the most important work that you're ever going to do. So as soon as you feel judgment coming in, as soon as you feel like, I'm starting to like form opinions, and you know what we know about first first looks and first opinions is that it takes 7 to 8 seconds to form that initial opinion. That quick, our brain starts going, yum, yuck, good, bad, wrong, all that stuff. You go, hey, you lean into asking curious questions. You genuinely say, there's something I don't know about this person or this situation, and I'm going to take a step back before I start judging all this, and I'm going to ask them 2 or 3 curious questions. Tell me a little bit more about that. You use that term. Explain that to me. You seem frustrated with this. Can you like dig a little bit deeper? Like that's the really important, precious work. People want to be seen and heard, but yet we are talking too much and not asking enough really good questions to help get to this place where we're getting on the same page.
That is Susan Leger Ferraro, a speaker, executive coach, senior advisor, and CEO of G3 Works. Check out her book. It's called Superloop, How Understanding Beliefs, Biology, and Behavior Creates a Business That Works for Everyone. And I've heard that there is a field book coming out soon that you should check out as well. Thanks so much for being here, Susan.
Yeah, you too, Russell. Thank you for this work. Thank you for the contribution that you're making. The fact that you're really understanding, the name of it says it all, relationships at work, that relationships are the conversation, as Susan Scott says, right? The conversation is the relationship is the conversation. And I really appreciate what you're doing to help people understand that there are options out there. We now know how to do things better. We just get to practice it.
Thank you so much for this. That's it.
Yeah. No, it's great.